Hi there. So today I'm making a classic Italian frittata, which is such a wonderful dish. It's a great dish for a weekend brunch or if for a weeknight dinner. If you just look in the fridge and you are looking for something to make, you can use your leftovers or even any kind of veggies that are maybe looking a little bit tired. You can throw them into a wonderful frittata. So to get started, you'll need an oven-proof pan like this. You don't want anything once you put it, because you're gonna broil this at the end of the process. So you don't want anything that can melt. And you're gonna need your eggs, your Parmesan, some basil. You can use milk or cream. I'm using cream in this recipe. Garlic, salt, pancetta, olive oil, onion, zucchini, and let's get started. So I have already preheated my oven to a broil, and then I'm going to turn on to about a medium heat my pan here, maybe a little bit lower. Just get it going, and add about a tablespoon of olive oil right in there. So I hate measuring, but it is about a tablespoon. There we go. So get that just warmed up. Just be careful that doesn't burn. Just keep an eye on that as you're cooking or chopping your vegetables. So I'm gonna make some room and get my onion. Now, this recipe is on my website, so if I don't give the exact measurements, you can find them there. Okay, so I'm gonna use a half of a yellow onion. Put this over here and just go ahead. So when you're cutting up your veggies, you don't need to make them really diced or super fine. A frittata in and of itself is a little bit messy. No two are really ever the same. Take off the skin and let's see. Okay, so just chop this up. The only thing I would suggest, because we are using actually a potato as well, I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but that is the only thing that I will explain that as we get closer to that point when we add the potato, but I would make that a little more finely diced because that needs to saute and it will make the cooking process go a little faster as opposed to having big chunks of it when you're trying to saute towards the end. So go ahead and take out that core and just chop your onion. This is great. When I lived in Italy, I would go with my cousin. I lived with my cousin there, and we would go to her friends on the weekends. They do. And we would have a wonderful frittata, a little glass of Pinot Grigio, and a salad. It's just a great, always made for a great afternoon. So there we go. And that oil, I can smell it. It's starting to heat. So and then just chop it. Just loosely chop, chop, chop. This is like the cousin of the French omelet. The French omelet is a little more put together, perhaps, but I think of the frittata like the Italian people who are very open and welcoming and let's see, there we go. So nothing too perfect. There we go. So I'm gonna stick that right in my pot. Should be warm enough. Turn up the heat a little. And we're just gonna saute that along with our pancetta until it's just soft and it's turned a little bit yellow, not too golden. There we go. So get that going and I turn the heat up at this point. Get my trusty wooden spoon and get that cooking and add my pancetta. So this is already pre-chopped, which is great if you're in a hurry, but if you go to the butcher or a specialty market, you get your strips of pancetta. I take my kitchen shears, and because it's a great tool to have, a set of kitchen shears in your kitchen, and you can just cut because I find it easier than a knife if you're gonna do that. These are really sharp. I keep them only for food process. So there, it's starting to go. Okay, so just want to let that be for a little bit. Keep an eye on that so it doesn't burn. And I am going to now cut my zucchini. So my recipe calls for about a half of a small zucchini. I might just use this whole thing. It doesn't really matter. You can use other veggies too. Turn that down. You can use other vegetables if you have something you want to add, maybe even like this red pepper I have. I love peppers. You can certainly do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut this guy up. And when we're talking about zucchinis, you want to look for zucchinis about this size. You never want to get a really giant zucchini unless you're using it for another purpose, but it really adds a lot of water. And, you know, with our frittata, we don't want extra water content in there. It'll just get kind of mushy with the eggs. So this is what I would use anytime you're using a zucchini for a recipe, let's say. Unless you're cooking them on their own, but they still have a higher water content. So I'm going to go ahead and just chop these guys up. Give my onions a stir in a minute. And this frittata is great because you can actually freeze this frittata. I would suggest wrapping them individually, the pieces, and wrapping them really well and putting them in freezer bags if you want. I always like things to be fresh, but there is nothing greater than being really tired on a weeknight especially and realizing, oh, you've got a frittata in there, or like the bolognese I did last time. So we've got that chopped up. Now, we'll also give that a little stir. Make sure that's cooking and trying to heat up a little bit. Just want to always monitor so it doesn't stick. I've got the oil from the pancetta, or the fat, the grease, will lubricate the pan really nicely, which is great. But just keep an eye on that. So there, that looks good. I'm going to put this aside and then go ahead and get my potato. And if you don't have this kind of peeler, I highly suggest this. I think it's like $2. It's the best peeler I've found. It's just really easy. It's plastic, but it's great. So I'm going to go ahead and peel half of my potato. We only need, I'm going to cut it. Let's see, it's easier to peel it like this. Just about a half of this potato. And, okay. There we go. So, and now, like I said, I am going to, these little pieces, I am going to cut these up a little bit finer because, as you know, the potato is a little tougher than the zucchini. And I want it to saute. Give this a little stir over here. That looks great. It is starting to become a little more golden. The onions, you can kind of see the pot. There we go. So once I've done that, I can add my zucchini in a little bit. That's looking good. All right, this is a really tasty dish. It doesn't take very much time at all. And it is worth it. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut this a little more finely. Little tiny pieces. And you can always use a lid on top of your pan if you feel like you're in a bit of a rush. I remember one time a couple years ago when we had some more people arriving for brunch and I needed to quickly make another frittata. I just got a lid and put it on top once all my veggies were in there. It just helps the whole sauteing process. So here we go. I'm going to add my zucchini at this point because that looks really good. My onions are slightly yellowy golden. And then I'm just going to make sure when I add the next ingredients that it's kind of flat. It's not, I'm going to blend it and saute so that it all gets sauteed. There we go, evenly. All right. So there. So for about 2 to 3 minutes, by the time I've finished chopping up finished chopping up my potato, then we can put that in there. Let's see. Okay. Just smaller little sections. Just like that. I'll show you. Okay. And this is great for kids, people of all ages. I love to serve a salad with this, which I'm going to show you. Show you a little salad. And I'm also, if we have time, I'm going to show you these Parmesan crisps that go really well. The Parmesan crisps are great for either to accompany your salad or on top of some soup or just as a snack or an appetizer. Really great. So, getting there. So just like about this size, you can see that they're not as big as, about the same size as my zucchini, but a little bit smaller. And they actually just, they do saute fairly quickly when they're like this. So there we go. There. Okay. All right. Got another little stir, turn it up a little bit. Get it going. Okay, so that's been a couple minutes, and I'm going to add the potato. All right. There we go. Okay, so I'll let that. Then I'm just gonna add also my salt, a little bit of salt at this point. And then I'm going to add 2 cloves of garlic. So when you have garlic, a little tip, once you get it, the 2 cloves out, it's covered in its little skin. What an easy way to get the garlic clove out is to either push down with a knife or the palm of your hand, and it will like crack open. So that's a great way to do that. I actually have 2 right here, ready to go. So I've got my garlic cloves, and I'm going to just put one in at a time. And the great thing is we've already got the oil and the pancetta, so the garlic is not going to burn. If you are ever cooking with garlic and you have it in the olive oil at first and it's minced, you can always add it to a little bit, get a little jar and add the garlic to a little bit of oil so it's just coated, and that way it won't burn. There's nothing worse. It changes the whole flavor of your cooking. So, okay, so I'm gonna just give this a good stir. So now I've got my potatoes, and you want to get those soft. So there we go. Once that's going, we're going to do the eggs and our Parmesan. I'm going to add a little Parmesan to this dish. So that looks great. Okay. Eggs. So now you're going to take a bowl and just add your eggs right into the bowl. Well, 6 eggs. There we go. Love these eggs. I found these that look really fresh. I think they're from a local farm. They were actually at Trader Joe's. Sometimes I love when they get the local produce. Fantastic. Okay. Right, and then just whip the eggs, or I have my little whisker here, and just go ahead and whisk them till they're light. Just a little bit. Make sure they're all blended. Just like this. So they're nice and golden. That's what you really want. I love the brown eggs, and they have such a golden. This is like they're really, really fresh, these eggs. Nice golden yolks. That's going to be delicious. I'm just going to give my pan a stir. Just make sure and turn down a little bit. Just keep making sure it's not too high. And stir the pan a little bit. Just make sure it's evenly sauteed. And already I can see that the potatoes are softening, which is great. It's a little high. Okay. So that looks good. Then I'm going to add my cream. I'm going to add that right in there. Set that aside so I can do my cheese. Okay, so I'm going to grate the cheese. So when you're looking to buy some Parmesan, you want to make sure, save a bit of a rind, that it says Parmigiano Reggiano on it. That is actually the authentic, you can kind of see on that rind. You can see that. That's the authentic cheese from Italy. There are many considerations when when the Italians make the cheese. There are only 330 dairies in Italy that are actually make Parmesan. So it depends on the cow's diet, and there's certain bacteria in those areas that make it Parmesan cheese, which is really kind of interesting. So it's kind of like when you're drinking a sparkling wine and you call it champagne, unless it's from Champagne, the Champagne region of France, then it's not really. It's sparkling wine or Prosecco if it's from Italy. So that's a little fact. And it's usually aged about 2 years when it comes from Italy. So this is really great. This is nicely aged. Love this cheese. And the Parmesan crisps are just delicious. So that's probably about right for the frittata. So I'm going to add that to the egg and cream mixture right now. Go ahead and add that right in there. Okay, and then I'm going to reserve my cheese because I'm going to show you the crisps in a minute. And then you're going to add some basil. So I love the smell of basil. It's so good. It's so fresh. It's usually really in the summer, the peak season or the season for basil. But what's great is if you have a plant, or you can access these things, of course, all year long. And this is really, really fresh. So this looks great. I'm gonna put that there. And then a little trick is when you're going, I need about 2 tablespoons of basil and just kind of diced. So I'm just gonna stir this. A little trick is to get a mug, and again, your kitchen shears, a great tool, indispensable, really. Okay, this looks great. And you can just either chop right in, if you twist them and chop, or you can just stick your basil right into the little mug. I'm gonna do 2 things. I'm gonna chop it right into my mug, and then I'll show you. This is great, a great way to cut up any herbs, because it's really hard to dice them otherwise with a knife. It's a little tedious. And this is a great little tip I was taught by a wonderful Italian woman when I took a cooking class when I was about, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old. So it stuck with me. It's a great, great tip. So there we go. It's a lot easier. I'm gonna use that basil. So you just chop away. Just chop away. I may have shown this tip before, but just in case you missed it. So there's my basil. And I'm also gonna add this right into my egg mixture. So I've got everything here. Let's check and make sure. Okay, there we go. And a little bit of freshly ground pepper. I'm gonna wanna add that. I like to use the really freshly ground. I feel like it just gives a great taste to the eggs. Everything I use is just fresh, as fresh as it can be. And just never use, for the basil even, don't ever use the dry, just always use fresh. So I'm just gonna whisk that together and then add it right on top. Maybe give my mixture here just one more little stir. That looks fantastic. And I can see that these potatoes are soft. So that's great. And again, if you want to let it go a little bit longer, if you feel like you can test a potato with a fork and see, just tender. You don't want to overdo it, but if you need to, just put a little pan on top or the cover, and it will speed up the process a bit. So, and then we're just going to add this right on top of the mixture. There, that looks so pretty. It's gonna taste even better. It looks great, it tastes better. So I'm gonna cook that at about moderate heat until it's cooked through and it's just set, but a little bit jiggly on top. I will show you this. So, put that there. So we're gonna, while we're doing that, let me get a little towel, clean that up so I can show you my Parmesan. So that won't take too long. Now, when you stick this in the oven, right now this pan is fine, of course, but don't forget to use a pot holder afterwards because this is going to be really hot. I have done it a couple times. I should have learned the first, but I actually have a pot holder that has a little pocket here for that purpose. So when you take it out, just be really careful, or I just place a pot holder on top so that no one comes over because people always come back for seconds. So you don't want anyone burning themselves. So we'll leave that for a minute and I'll show you what that looks like when it's set. And I am going to start grating some more cheese for the Parmesan crisps. So turn that up just a bit so we get going here. It's almost ready, in fact. Let's see, I might have to wait a minute for the Parmesan crisps. This looks just a little bit runny on top. So if you can see that, it's just a little runny, but it's really set underneath. So in fact, I'm gonna put this in my oven under the broiler, and I put it in the middle of the oven because you have the handle. Okay. So you stick that in there for about 4 to 5 minutes and just check at about 4 minutes to make sure it hasn't burned, but that should be perfect for about 4 to 5 minutes. So right now I'm going to show you quickly how to do these wonderful Parmesan crisps. So I'll show you what they look like. They look just like this. They are so good. And you, like I said, you can use them right on top of a soup or with a salad. It's kind of pretty, something different, or just eat them. I think we had more of those when I first made them, but I do like cheese. So you're just going to grate about 2 cups of fresh Parmesan. Do not get pre-grated or it will not work. You really want the fresh Parmesan. You can do about 2 cups. And I just want to show you how to do this once you, let's see, maybe we'll just do about 1 cup. And you're going to take a baking sheet and line it with parchment paper or a Silpat. That's a non-stick mat that you can use for baking or for things like this that get a bit sticky because it's really hard to get. I don't think you'll get the Parmesan off the pan without ruining the little disc. So I will show you. I'm going to move this. Oh, that's a bit hot. You can see this pan. Just move this over just to show you what I'm doing. So you're going to just take about 1.5 tablespoons of the Parmesan like this and kind of clump it together just like this. And I'm not going to do this right now because my oven is too hot, or I could do the lower oven. You're going to heat it to about 400 degrees for about 4 to 5 minutes. Again, you're going to want to check and make sure that it's not too brown. So don't want it too packed together, but just enough so that it takes shape. So I'll do 2 of those. And this is just a 1-ingredient recipe. It's really fantastic. Some people add pepper. I like just the plain Parmesan. It's just, there's nothing better, in my opinion. And just the taste of this. And it's so much better than those store-bought versions if you do this. And it's just pretty. It's sort of different if you have a salad or on a plate. There we go. So it will look something like this. There you go. And when it comes out, it will look like those pretty little discs I just showed you. So I will cook those later. And checking my timer for my frittata. And then if you want, you can add a salad. What I love with the frittata is just using a wonderful arugula salad. This is just baby arugula because it doesn't fight with the flavors of the frittata. And sometimes it's nice to have something light on the side. So I would just put this right into my bowl, drizzle olive oil, and a little bit of lemon. Now, another tip is if you have a lemon and you just want to drizzle a little bit, depending on how much juice you want to use, you can just take a toothpick and make a hole right into the lemon and squeeze. That way you're not ruining the whole lemon. So we do use a lot of lemons in this house, so I might even just chop off a little bit and squeeze it, drizzle it over, not too much, just a little over my salad with the olive oil. And then I like to make slightly larger a slightly larger grate for my Parmesan. If I'm doing this on top, you might not need it since we have the other cheese this time, but if you want, just get a grater like this and make a slice, kind of a bigger slice that you can put right on top. So I think that looks really, really pretty. And you just put those in and it's great. So that's one thing you can do. And then if you do have some leftover grated cheese, you can get a little container like this. This is great. I love this one. It doesn't have to be fancy as long as it's airtight, and keep it in the fridge. So then it's ready to go. So I'm gonna check on my frittata in the oven. It is ready to show you. So be careful of this handle. Come back. And it looks perfect. It looks so good. It is just perfect amount of crispness on top, and it's ready to eat. Let's see. So I will just, you can let this cool. I suggest letting it cool. I'm going to do my instructions of putting this right on the top of the handle right now so no one gets burned. And yes, I've made one here, which I can show you, cut in with a little spatula just to show you what it looks like. Made an extra. And this I can even freeze, like I said. There we go. So, and it may not last long. So, whoops. So this is what your frittata is going to look like. A little bit of salad. It's a perfect lunch or weeknight dinner. I hope you get to try this recipe soon. And next time, I will be showing you maybe some other little cheese biscuits we can do, which go really well with the salads and really anything, little appetizers. So I hope you get a chance to try this. It doesn't take much time. You can prep ahead of time and have fun with it. Thank you.